For too long, art collecting has been considered the sole domain of the super rich. I'm here to tell a different story. I believe that with even a modest initial outlay, many of us can put together important and valuable art collections in the matter of a few short years. Over the course of this video and others in my How to Collect Art series, I'm going to tell you a little about my own collecting journey and point out anything that I feel will be relevant for you too. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Ayita Vigadaro, and I've been collecting contemporary art for well over a decade now. I have an economics rather than an art history background. I studied modern languages at Oxford University, and then I did a master's in economics at SOAS, University of London. My economics background has, I think, stood me in quite good stead for understanding the business of art and the art market, not just the art historical and aesthetic side. I've been lucky enough to put together a collection, which I'm continually curating, buying, and sometimes selling works. I've met and become close friends with many extraordinary artists in the process, and I've sat on an acquisition committee at Tate, which was amazing. In addition, I speak at events and have recently guest lectured at an American university. Recently, I decided to put my thoughts on collecting down in a book. And as I put the book together, I thought I'd talk you through it right here on YouTube. I hope that this information will help you to choose your specific collecting niche and show you how you can make a mark in your chosen area of specialism. That it will help you to understand your precise market and help you develop the knowledge, contacts, and habits that will enable you to acquire key works at the best prices, to spot those artists whose careers are on an upward trajectory, and help you to navigate the maze of galleries, dealerships, art fairs, and auction houses. At this point, it is important to point out that this is not financially regulated advice. These are my personal observations. And as ever, if you do find this content useful, I'd love it if you could hit those like and subscribe buttons and keep up to date with all the videos coming out. I'll be interspersing these collecting videos with some really interesting conversations, art fairs and exhibitions coming up. So please do keep in contact. Thank you for watching.
Chapter 1, General Research. A straightforward way to become an expert in a short space of time is to pick a subject that is extremely specialized and not too broad. This does not, by the way, take anything away from the potential richness and quality of your subject matter. In art, there are many, many people endeavoring to become experts in contemporary art, for example. Contemporary art simply being the art of today. That means that in every country of the world, contemporary art is currently being produced, and scholars, curators, dealers, gallerists, and collectors are gleefully engaging with it in the millions. Great for contemporary art, not necessarily so good for you who wants to cut through the noise and efficiently pull together a valuable collection that stands out. What's more, you don't want to have to spend much money to do it. So why don't we take another look at the field of contemporary art, for example, but this time start breaking it down to the different specialisms within it. Contemporary art by woman, still a broad subject. Contemporary art by Indian and female artists. Now we're getting more specialized. Contemporary art by Indian female artists who work only in sculpture. Now we have a narrow focus. With a smaller pool of artists and experts to research and to understand, there is a higher chance of being able to make a unique mark on the subject matter. You'd be forgiven for thinking that, in terms of the value of your collection, the more general it is, the higher the value, as there will be more potential buyers should you sell it. However, in reality, this does not usually work. For a start, in order for your collection to one day be bought, if selling is your ultimate aim, then people need to know that it exists. There is far more likely to be the requisite interest and buzz around your collection if it is viewed as best in class, or if there is some sort of unique narrative around the objects in your collection. If it is an exceptionally well thought out or interesting collection within a small niche, there is always an angle or hook upon which to present it to others. Whereas if you have a number of mediocre works within a vast artistic category, of which tens of thousands of better examples can be found, you might struggle to find an auction house or a dealer that will even take on your works and attempt to sell them for you in the first place. Furthermore, within your clever, very narrow specialism, it is entirely realistic that you might be able to actually meet all, or at least the majority of key people within that field, be it the leading gallerists and auction house specialists, as well as fellow collectors, and, if they are living, the artists themselves. This gives you a great advantage in gaining the necessary knowledge in order to make prudent purchases. Moreover, given time, not only will you learn all about your particular specialism, but the particularly driven among you may even be able to go on to influence collecting trends within it. Humans, and particularly art collectors, tend to take comfort in following tried and tested paths. Once you are armed with all the knowledge and have built visibility and reputation, should you be daring enough to forge a new collecting path and try and test it yourself for those behind you, you may find that your boldness in championing certain less widely known artworks will encourage others. In the process, the value of the works you have already acquired would naturally rise in line with increasing demand. So, we've established that one of your best chances of succeeding quickly is helping yourself by greatly narrowing the breadth of material you must specialize in. And we will go into this in detail later in order to help you choose precisely the best specialism for you. However, before you do go deep and specialize, I'd advise anybody looking at getting into art collecting to also have at least a very basic general overview of the art market as a whole. 1, it's just common sense. 2, it will stop you sounding a prat at openings, events, and other art world interactions. 3, it is genuinely pretty interesting. And 4, most importantly, it will help you out when you are deciding which way to specialize and inform your investment decisions thereafter. Given that we've established a need to get a general understanding of today's art market, what are the best ways to go ahead and do it? One of the most foolproof strategies is to get to grips with auction prices, histories, and trends. While many transactions within the art world take place privately, and it can be difficult to know what those works actually sell for, auction houses are incredibly useful tools for collectors, as they routinely publish all of their sales results. They are usually available online as soon as an auction is finished. One of the safest ways to research the market is to spend some time on the websites of the leading auction houses. Christie's and Sotheby's are the 2 largest by sales at time of writing, and there are many other reputable auction houses around the world, such as Bonhams, Phillips, or the smaller French auction house Piazza. Typically, their websites will combine auction results and information with client interviews and articles on all the notable items and collections they have coming up for sale, from furniture and jewellery to Impressionist or Renaissance art. Any of these categories, by the way, might be good starting places for you to start defining your collecting niche. Get into the habit of taking regular looks at the sorts of price points that items are going for, keeping in mind that published results include a buyer's premium that varies from auction house to auction house, but can be up to 30%. You'll likely notice that different subsections of the art world at auction generally have different levels of estimates. While a Sotheby's contemporary evening sale might present you with a list of works at eye-wateringly expensive lower estimates, you might notice that other areas such as Victorian fine furniture, for example, seem less sought after, with a much lower entry level to buy pieces at auction. This sort of price comparison across the board should help you take the temperature of the market. What's more, it's important to look not just at current auction results, but at auction results over time. You want to know not only what a work costs, but whether or not its prices and those of similar works have been rising over time, or whether prices are stagnating or even falling. But don't think you can get away with not leaving the coziness of your warm bed in your research endeavours. Works of art, bar performance, sound art and NFTs, virtual artworks, are tangible visual objects, and it is important to take the time to step away from your computer and dedicate a period of just getting out there and looking. The first place to start would be the leading galleries and auction houses. And remember, at this stage, we are just talking market research, not buying. When it comes to actually acquiring art, unless you are extremely wealthy, you will want to be more strategic than just going to the top galleries and buying what you like. A good rule of thumb to identify the most powerful galleries in terms of the current market is to look at the list of exhibiting galleries on the websites of the world's most prestigious art fairs. So for contemporary art, look at who is exhibiting at Art Basel, particularly the Swiss edition. For other fine art, antiques and design, perhaps look at TEFA, both the Maastricht and different New York editions. Then go to whichever of the listed galleries are near where you are based and spend some time looking at the works on display. The first time you go to the galleries, simply enjoy the experience and discover what speaks to you and what repels you. Have fun with it and just engage with the works in the moment. But when you go back, take a more academic approach. Look at the different prices in comparison to the sizes of the artworks and the materials used. Talk to the gallerists, find out the narrative behind each piece and/or exhibition. Ask about what the artist's motivations were, any more information on what the artists have done and other shows they will have coming up. In time, you will be able to piece together patterns and trends in terms of how art is created, displayed and sold, and how value is assigned. And I will share my own specific tips on assigning value later in this book. Whilst you are out and about visiting as many excellent galleries as you can, you should also add the auction houses to your circuit. Despite their grand interiors, the auction houses are open to the public, and, in my view, it is a hugely underrated thing to while away a morning or afternoon, seeing the different sales that are on display on any given day. They're often peaceful places to sit and enjoy a coffee, or an excellent meal too. So perhaps get into the habit of scheduling meetings at auction house cafes, so that you can have a browse before or after. Not to buy anything yet, simply in the name of research. Once you're comfortable with what is on display at the key galleries and auction houses, you may want to think about art fairs too. If you live in a major world city, such as London, New York or Paris, the great news is that there are a number of great fairs close by, from Frieze in London and New York to Art Basel, the Armory Show, TEFAF, PAD, 154 and many more, often with editions in a number of locations. There is typically a VIP opening to which you would need a dedicated invitation, and that is often when the star works are reserved by collectors. However, it is easy to simply buy an inexpensive regular ticket for the rest of the fair, which is open to the public and which will still allow you to view all of the artworks on show. Works taken to art fairs tend to be those works each gallery is endorsing most enthusiastically at the moment. If you can, why not think about combining your next holiday with hopping on a budget airline flight to Art Basel in Switzerland or to the Venice Biennale in Italy for a couple of days? In terms of getting a feel for the zeitgeist and really understanding what is most exciting now in contemporary art across the globe, these two events are currently unbeatable. Another important tool not to be overlooked in your general research phase is your humble newspaper and the press and media in general. In the UK, the Financial Times Weekend edition, for example, currently has excellent arts coverage, with information about who all the leading galleries are bringing to the top art fairs around the world, as well as what dynamic and influential collectors are buying at the moment. Even if those particular artists' works are out of reach, it can give useful information as to where trends are going. And while trends are not always indicators of lasting success, they can help you make informed decisions, and we'll break this down in detail in Chapter 4. The media coverage can also point you in the direction of which galleries are becoming kingmakers, which means that while you might not afford their current superstars, you may be able to visit the galleries and acquire, for sometimes as relatively little as a few £100s, a small work by somebody that they are steadily laying the ground for and building up for the future. Another great way to research the market is to get social. The minute you visit a gallery and express a bit of interest, they will likely begin grooming you to become a future client. So, allow yourself to be wooed. You will be put on the mailing list for the many private views that happen at each gallery to celebrate the opening of their latest show. Get out to as many of these events as you can, and not just for a free glass of fizz. Look at the art, and nearly as importantly, talk to other collectors. That's when you will hear what real people are buying for their collections, which artists people are excited about. Once you've heard the buzz and hype around certain artists, remember you can look it all up away from the breathlessness. You can read up online and see what shows they have done around the world and assess their track record. I tend to beware the artist for whom there is a sudden media hype, but who has not had many exhibitions in the past or in any recognisable venues. Past exhibitions and experience are a useful sign that an artist is committed and has had an initial degree of success and acclaim, rather than as merely the subject of a more cynical marketing campaign, which may mean that their longevity is at risk. And it's not just individual collectors you should be interested in. The network of museums is extremely influential in the art world, and if a curator from, say, a Tate in the UK or a MoMA in New York is excited about a particular artist, then it's likely that there is some clout behind him or her. The world's highly regarded museums, such as Paris's the Louvre, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., or the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, to name but a few, are unrivaled in their power within the art ecosystem. Museums are incredibly important enablers of public access to great art. What's more, these museums, through their lack of commerciality, are able to build their collections without regard for what will sell, focusing solely on seeking to acquire and display genuine masterpieces and preserve them for posterity. Because of this, they can set a tone for which artists are real and genuine talents, as opposed to fashionable cash cows for a gallery at a particular moment in time. Therefore, when an artist's work enters the collection of a major museum, it is an unbeatable level of endorsement. Ironically, then, the seal of approval from non-commercial institutions tends to coincide with a significant rise in the value of that artist's works on the commercial market. So enjoy as much time as you can taking advantage of the completely free, enriching and educative activity of perusing major museums and laying the groundwork for your collection in the process. Some artists' works have a huge range in terms of price. It is not unreasonable to expect, over time as you hone your strategy, to be regularly exposed to smaller works by some of the artists you see before you in the museums, at a price point that is within reach. Depending on how much time you're prepared to put into the research stages, you might even consider reading up on the history of art, to go beyond today's market. Or go one step further and consider a course at somewhere like a Sotheby's Institute or online. Not that this is necessary, in my view, to building a valuable collection. But it is one of the options open to you, and you should take what is genuinely practicable and interesting for you, and gladly pass by that which is not. Happy researching.